everybody, and welcome to a special showing of 10 Minutes on PBS Network. I'm Von Grant, and today we're talking with system engineers and the European refugee crisis. The team will be Keegan, Emily, and David. This team has been working on creating solutions for European command teams to stem the flow of refugees entering into Europe. We'll first go into the background of the situation and learn exactly what's going on. Then we'll discuss the key stakeholders involved in the system and what they need to do to get the job done. Finally, we'll look into final candidate solutions and how the engineers see them getting carried out. Here to give us some background knowledge on the situation is Keegan Thomas. Thanks for being here, Keegan.
Hey, thanks for having me, Vaughn.
Can you help our viewers understand the background behind the refugee dilemma in the Middle East and Europe?
Sure thing, Vaughn. So essentially what we have is a large influx of refugees, mainly from countries like Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Afghanistan, attempting to cross over into Europe in order to escape the variety of domestic issues going on in their countries. The main one being the Syrian civil war between the Assad government and the revolutionaries that have displaced millions of Syrians from their homes. While European governments are willing to open their borders in order to help Syrian refugees, they also open their country to the possibility of terrorist threats. In order to help reduce the risk of refugee radicalization, European Command, or EUCOM, must understand the key components of the crisis at hand.
That's very interesting, Keegan. Is there some sort of, a map that would show key distinctions of relationship to help our viewers understand the problem?
Funny you mentioned that, Vaughn. Here's a map made by our team that outlines the different components and key players involved in this situation. So in the middle, you've got your main player, Syria. There are several key factors driving the refugee issue, and so you look over here, you see the competing rebel groups, humanitarian issues, and foreign enablers that are all key factors that are driving refugees out of Syria. These factors seem to be dependent on each other. The competing rebel groups are causing civil war within the country, which drain an abundance of resources from villages and draw the attention of foreign powers. The US and Russia back opposing sides of the war, which incites more conflict. Moving over here, we see competing perspectives between European citizens and Syrian refugees. Some Europeans are more sympathetic towards refugees coming over, while others are a little more suspicious. They see that they are aware of the threat that comes with it. Moving on the other hand, there's Syrians that are frustrated with European countries because they believe that the Europeans are not doing as much as they could to send help over to Syria and those other countries. On the other hand, there are other Syrians that are grateful for the open borders, but they do feel unwanted by European citizens.
Okay. Thank you, Keegan. Now that we understand the system structure and factors that influence it, the viewers need to know what the specific problem is. Here is Emily Urban to discuss the problem definition phase of the situation.
Hey Vaughn, first I'll identify the specific problem statement of the situation, which is that EUCOM must be able to provide effective assistance to European governments in order to decrease the risk of refugee radicalization.
How were you able to develop such a concise problem statement? Who's important in this process?
I'm glad you asked that, Vaughn. What you are referring to is stakeholder analysis. Now, the first step that I have identified for the system are refugees, European citizens, European governments, NATO, and finally EUCOM. Please refer to the traceability matrix.
Traceability? What exactly is included in this traceability matrix?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, Vaughn. Traceability matrix is simply a table organizing the elicitation technique, management style, and the effective needs of all the 6 stakeholders. These effective needs are then transitioned into system requirements and then 6 system functions. The system functions are to clean the refugee camps, advance refugee education, maintain clear communication, secure European borders, investigate refugee history, and provide transparent policy information.
That's impressive work, Emily. So, what exactly was the stakeholder analysis important? It sounds like a lot of work. Why do you have to do it?
Glad you asked that too. Performing the stakeholder analysis was essential to defining the problem statement because I was able to create functions that met the stakeholders' needs.
Okay, that makes sense, Emily. How would you effectively measure these functions? Is it in a subjective or an objective manner?
After developing the 6 system functions, I then developed a qualitative and quantitative value model for the functions.
May you explain the differences between each
Qualitative
value
value model allowed me to assign ways to measure each objective of the function. The quantitative value model allowed me to convert raw data from each value measure to a standard value.
And why was it necessary to develop standard values from the raw data?
This step was important because it allowed me to calculate the global weight to determine which value measure was most important to the stakeholder, which seems to be the increased percentage of military units tasked to protect Europe's borders.
Thank you very much for explaining how you created the problem definition, Emily. Emily was able to explain the elements of the stakeholder analysis and the value model she used to compose a problem definition. Now we will have David Santos to explain the possible solutions of the problem of the situation.
Yeah, Vaughn. So essentially through research, we began to develop options to clean refugee camps, advance refugee education, secure European borders, and investigate refugee history. Through this research, we developed 8 options, and ultimately that brought us to 16 alternatives.
Will UConn be interested in utilizing all of these alternatives?
Not all 16 will be feasible, so that would be the only issue there.
So how do you determine the most feasible alternatives out of these 16?
Well, we needed to screen them, and ultimately, so through screening each alternative, that's what we developed candidate solutions from, and how we proved that certain candidate solutions would be more effective and more feasible. The 2 criteria that we used to screen these alternatives were whether or not UConn would be able to implement them, and then how much time it would take to implement them. These proved to be the 2 criteria that were most prominently important for the ultimate success of this system.
Interesting. And what candidate solutions were produced by the system?
Well, the 4 candidate solutions that we came up with are, first, to provide refugee sanitation jobs, provide extra pay for refugee camp teachers, incentivize NATO, and conduct interviews at borders. Next solution we thought up provides refugee sanitation jobs, extra funding for schools, incentivizes NATO, and conducts interviews at borders as well. The third solution is that we provide volunteer programs, extra pay for refugee camp teachers, incentivize NATO again, and conduct interviews at borders. The last candidate solution that proved to be feasible provides volunteer programs, extra funding for schools, incentivizes NATO, and conducts medical screening.
Very impressive, David. While all of these solutions seem great, how financially realistic are they?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, Vaughn. After determining the 5 candidate solutions, I then created life cycle cost profiles that illustrate the cost of each candidate solution over the key stages of a system life cycle in 5 years. 1. The life cycle cost by stage depict that the most expensive stage for each solution will be during the operation stage, while the life cycle cost by year depicts the cost of each solution will reach its peak during the 4th year of the system according to my data.
And which solution appears to be the most expensive, David?
During each phase and year of the system, candidate solution 4 appears to be the most expensive, while candidate solution 1 consistently appears to be the least expensive. When considering these factors, UConn may benefit most from implementing candidate solution 1 from a financial standpoint.
Jeez Louise, ladies and gentlemen, this seems like a real wicked problem. Thank you for tuning in tonight on 10 Minutes, and thank you to the resident team that came out to support and explain their system engineering project. Tune in next week to 10 Minutes. Thank you very much. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Cut.
Alright, get the hell out of here. Ugh.
Is that your lanyard?